So regardless of what Dana White and the UFC and some MMA media members have told me over the past couple of weeks with their headlines, it feels like every single time I hear Khabib talk about a potential comeback or talking about his retirement in general, it sounds like he's 100% committed to never coming back to the sport of MMA ever again. I know he's going to be involved with the sport, but I feel like it's time to just move on and stop hoping and stop wishing and get on with the lightweight division. So in this video, I'm going to tell you guys who I believe is going to rule the 155-pound lightweight division of the UFC, who will be the 155-pound undisputed world champion now that Khabib is gone in 2021. I'm going to go through some of the matchups that have already been made, giving you some early thoughts on what I believe is going to happen. I'm going to give you an overall Grand Prix-esque prediction stage basis video of who I believe is going to end up at the top of this skirmish in the 155-pound division, and I'm going to list who I think is more likely to be in that position and who's least likely to be there out of mainly the top 5 opponents in the lightweight division. But still, starting with the matchup we all know that's happening so far, Poirier versus McGregor 2 is happening real soon. I know they have McGregor now at number 4, above Tony Ferguson in the lightweight division's rankings, which is kind of okay because Tony Ferguson lost to Charles Oliveira, and Charles Oliveira, although beating Kevin Lee, didn't really have much of a big wins in the division that's going to put him in any good place in the rankings. So you do have to kind of bring down Tony Ferguson in those divisional rankings. So McGregor is now above him at number 4 in that lightweight division. Dustin Poirier at number 2. I feel like it's likely the winner of that fight is 100% going to get the title shot if Khabib is retiring, because the winner of that fight is, in my opinion, this is the top seed bout of the lightweight division so far. Both of these guys, in Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor, in my opinion, have the highest chance out of anyone, with one other Brazilian name included, which we'll get to in a second, of taking that belt at lightweight after Khabib is gone. Poirier versus McGregor. The reason why I'm going to put Conor McGregor as my main guy to take the lightweight world championship is because I believe he beats Dustin Poirier, and I think he's a great matchup for another guy who I believe could take the lightweight belt, Charles Oliveira. And I think the next matchup they're going to make is Justin Gaethje versus Charles Oliveira. If you didn't know, Michael Chandler versus Dan Hooker is now booked for UFC 257, so that's amazing news. I feel as though they're going to make Justin Gaethje versus Charles Oliveira now. It just makes so much sense. There was a bit of a problem before whether or not Chandler was going to take on Gaethje. That was going to hold up Charles Oliveira. He'd rightfully earned a little bit of a title elimination bout, in my opinion, at least a title elimination bout, if not a title shot, for what he did to poor old man Ferguson. And it feels crazy to say that, but watching what Charles Oliveira did to Ferguson, I've never seen it, and I've watched it again recently as well. It just made me... Tony Ferguson's always been terrifying to me, and I've looked at that fight with Charles Oliveira and him again, and it just makes me feel like, oh no, poor old man Ferguson chucked in there with these savages, when Ferguson was always the savage. It's crazy how 1 year can change so much, but I believe Charles Oliveira, I like his chances against Justin Gaethje. If Khabib can get over Justin Gaethje's guard and straight into submission positions like that, I believe that's a huge hole in Justin Gaethje's game, because as much as you can say that Khabib is a dominant grappler and better than Charles Oliveira, I can't argue with that. There's no real way of finding out unless they take on each other right now, so you can have that opinion. But I believe if Khabib can pass over your guard like that, when he couldn't do it to guys like Dustin Poirier so quickly and Conor McGregor so quickly and Ally Quinta so quickly, that Charles Oliveira is equally going to be able to do that to Justin Gaethje. I'm hedging my bets. I think Charles Oliveira's game right now is very good for Justin Gaethje. He can get it to the ground. I know Justin Gaethje's got a good takedown defense, but I feel like his old style would have been better to beat Charles Oliveira by pressuring forward and bringing out bad shots from Charles Oliveira. But recently, Gaethje seems to be circling around the outside, moving backwards quite a bit, and against Charles Oliveira, you're just allowing him a bunch of space and time to set up all of his shots and takedowns. I think he'll eventually get one on Justin Gaethje, and I edge towards Charles Oliveira in a Justin Gaethje bout. And I know that Justin Gaethje was seen as the murderer that was going to take on Khabib and be the one guy to beat him. I never thought that was going to happen. I've always kind of assumed that Justin Gaethje's got a huge hole in his grappling defensively. That's exactly what happened in him versus Khabib. I was proven right there. I'm going to continue under that theory that's given me 100% success rate so far, in the fact that Justin Gaethje has no defensive jiu-jitsu game, or at least he does, but it's not his best attribute, and that might be the way to beat him. I'm going to go with Charles Oliveira over Gaethje, and I think McGregor beats Poirier But I think McGregor beats Oliveira, because when you look at the difference of what Khabib could do to McGregor on the ground compared to Gaethje, it's very obvious there's a huge difference. And I think Conor McGregor is way more dangerous than Justin Gaethje in that first round. I guess we'll find out. Listen, if Conor McGregor beats Dustin Poirier in the first round, Poirier beat Gaethje. And in fact, I don't know how Gaethje's number 1 in the division when Poirier beat him and is sitting at number 2. Poirier also beat Alvarez, who beat Gaethje. Like, how many more bits of evidence do the rankings makers need to put Poirier above Gaethje in that division? Like, Gaethje got his interim belt off Tony Ferguson, which is very good opponent to get your interim belt off of, but Dustin Poirier got his interim belt off an actual champion in Max Holloway, like an undisputed world champion. I know a lot of people saw Ferguson as that, but on record, Holloway was a champion. Poirier beat him. I feel like Poirier should be number 1 in the lightweight division. I think Poirier is going to lose to McGregor. Gaethje's going to lose to Oliveira. Maybe we see a Poirier versus Gaethje rematch down the line. And I think McGregor beats Oliveira to be the lightweight world champion. But I do believe if Poirier beats McGregor, that Poirier would also kind of beat Oliveira as well. I really do. I don't think Oliveira is that crazily good, but I think he could take advantage of Gaethje's weakness that Khabib it kind of exploited in his game, I'll be honest with you. The easiness that is set up that inverted triangle with is just... You can't ignore that at the highest level of the lightweight division. You know, like, at least Poirier put up a fight. Like, he got put in bad positions, but he survived all of them in the first round. Got out of things in the second round as well. Had some success in the second round, and then it was a little bit downhill after that moment there, but still Conor McGregor survived everything in the first round, took a beating in the second round real bad, but won the third round, and eventually got caught in a bad position in the fourth. I think there's a massive difference in the defensive grappling of Gaethje compared to those other guys, so I don't see Gaethje getting it done. I see Oliveira versus McGregor happening for the belt at some point after this, and McGregor beating him, but I think Poirier would beat Oliveira as well. But otherwise, let's look at the other guys in the division. Tony Ferguson, I feel like, is going to be taking on Paul Felder. You kind of, I don't know what to do here. I think you kind of have to go with Paul Felder now. I would never have said that before in my life, but if they get a 3-rounder and Paul Felder gets 3 rounds against Tony Ferguson, or even 5 rounds, because let's not forget, Paul Felder's the guy that comes on to fights in those later rounds as well. I just don't think Ferguson has the same calcium content in his bones anymore. Like, there's just... I watched the Oliveira fight again, and I even watched a bit of the Gaethje fight again, and although there's power there, I think Felder can get an advantage over him, and I don't think Felder's going to be as skinny as he was in the RDA bout either. Ferguson might... You know what? I might lean towards Ferguson. I don't see Paul Felder taking him down. The winner of this fight, in my opinion, is not going to be getting the championship by the end of 2021 anyway, because I feel like the top of the division, there's so many big names, it's going to be harder for the Dan Hookers, the RDAs, the Felder versus Ferguson winner to really jump straight back towards the title elimination bout, because they're probably, as I said, going to do a Poirier versus Gaethje rematch if they both lose, or if McGregor loses and Gaethje loses, they'll do a McGregor versus Gaethje matchup. Of course, they're probably going to do that to try and get their names back in the mix. It just feels like there's going to be a bit of a logjam at the top, so I'm hedging my bets on Conor McGregor, but I think a dark horse to win the belt in the division is Dan Hooker, man. I think he's got one problem in his game. He likes taking shots on the chin, a little bit too much in my opinion at times, and that could be a downfall of his. I will say another problem that he has is his cardio in 5-rounders. He's just got a free round fight with Michael Chandler. He's improving more and more every single time we see him in the cage. He's still not that far past his prime compared to the other guys in that division. I believe he's like 29, 30 years of age, maybe 31. I mean, he's not an older guy past his 30s by far like the other guys in this lightweight division are. I think he's got a chance to really improve, because his one problem is his cardio, and I think that's the only thing kind of holding him back. And that's a very fixable problem. Like, it's not like Dan Hooker has a bad ground game and everyone's been able to just dominate him in the grappling whenever they've been good grapplers. That's just not the case. It's not like Dan Hooker's got a bad chin and it's not going to be anything he can change at this point in his career. It's not like Dan Hooker is technically unsound and the reason he's losing all of these fights is just because he's getting out jabbed and outright, like... It seems like the only problem is that he slows down so much in fights, because he was quite handily beating Poirier in the first 2 rounds of their bout. Even though Poirier was winning that second round before the end of it, Hooker won the first 2 rounds against Dustin Poirier, and that means a lot to me in all honesty, and I like his matchups against Justin Gaethje, Charles Oliveira, RDA as well. I like his chances against all of these guys. Ferguson, Felder, he already beat Felder, so that's going to help him out in the division. If Felder does get a jump on Ferguson, Hooker's name will rise to the top with a win over Chandler. I just feel like Dan Hooker's got a real good chance of being a dark horse of the division because he's got fixable problems. He's still young compared to some of these other top lightweights. I mean, when you look at the age range, I mean, look, RDA, Paul Felder, you know, Tony Ferguson, Conor McGregor's no young chicken anymore. Charles Oliveira, Poirier, Gaethje, like Khabib, these guys are getting on their bad side of the 30s for the lightweight division, especially in the case of Tony Ferguson and guys like Paul Felder as well. I feel like Dan Hooker could make a rise towards the top. We'll see if he will as the dark horse of the lightweight division. But that's what I want to see next in the lightweight division. Those are the matchups I want to see. Bunch of other matchups as well. I feel like the outside of the top 7 or 8 guys are going to have to figure things out amongst themselves for the rest of 2021. And I know that sounds bad, but it's just the division we have of lightweight. It's such a good division. I think we're going to do like a Kevin Lee versus Donald Cerrone winner takes on the winner of Diego Ferreira versus Beneil Dariush. You're going to do an Islam Makhachev versus Drew Dober winner, maybe take on the winner of an Alia Quinta versus Rafael Dos Anjos. I don't know what they're going to do in the division, but they're going to have to try and figure something out between the guys that I didn't mention at the start of this video, because one of them's going to be sitting at the top of the teens at that number 10, 9, 8 spots. They're going to get the jump up afterwards, but they're just going to have to figure it out amongst themselves. And I believe the person who's going to rise to the top out of all of those people, outside of the top 7 or 8 right now, I'm looking at Kevin Lee. I know it sounds crazy, but in hindsight, he put up a decent performance against Charles Oliveira. Those rounds were close, and look what Oliveira just did to Tony Ferguson. I know Kevin Lee's coming off an injury, though, so that does worry me a little bit. But I think, removing the name of Kevin Lee, actually, I don't like that I just said his name. I think the dark horses of the lightweight division right now are, in fact, Beneil Dariush, Islam Makhachev. I would have said Drew Dober against other matchups, but I think Makhachev gets the jump on Dober. I think it's Dariush, Makhachev, and maybe we see an resurgence of an Armand Sarukian really rising to the top of those rankings or close to it as well. By the end of 2021, I think he definitely beats Nasrat Haqparast in that division, and then we'll see if the rest of them can figure it out amongst each other. I want to see an Alexander Hernandez versus Guram Kutateledze. I want to see all of these great matchups outside of the rankings, but I think those are my dark horses outside the top 7, 8. Dariush, Makhachev, and Armand Sarukian. I believe in Armand Sarukian quite heavily. He's very young, and it's worrying how good he is so early in his career, and I think he can jump leaps and bounds ahead of where he's at right now in the near future. I definitely expect to see him in the rankings before 2021 is over. Thank you for watching the video. Like and subscribe. Hopefully you guys agree with my list of who I think is going to take the throne. In terms of likability or probability, I'd go McGregor 1, Oliveira 2, in the case that he beats McGregor, of course. Poirier 3, just because I think he's been matched with McGregor early in that little round robin they're having at the top of the lightweight division, so I don't think that's favourable for him. But if he wasn't matched against McGregor, he'd probably be fighting McGregor at the end of this little tournament for the belt anyway. I think it's going to be McGregor 1, Oliveira 2, third most likely is Poirier. Fourth most likely is obviously Gaethje, because I don't think the guys outside the top 4 are going to make up the grounds. Fifth most likely, I'd lean towards Dan Hooker. I'd actually maybe say Dan Hooker above Gaethje. I'm sorry, Gaethje. I've lost some buzz over the old Gaethje Meister, you know what I mean? Seems to have lost a little bit of street cred. I'm sure we can all agree, but still, we'll see how his next fight goes. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Like and subscribe. See you later. Yeah.